Okay, I'm Catherine and this is Lisa, and we're part of the Wabanaki Confederacy. And the Wabanaki include all of our hunting districts and other hunting districts of our relatives. I'll say it in English. It's our hunting districts and our relatives are from Newfoundland to Maine, over to Quebec and all the Maritimes. And that's the Wabanaki, were the people of the East, the Eastern Door and
the Dawn land.
the Dawn. Wabanaki, Abenaki, Wabanaki. Yep. So now we have to change our hats from land trust to treaty land trust. Okay, so the Peace and Friendship Treaty, there's many versions of it, and it crosses over into our other relatives. The Wabanaki are part of our treaties, yet that seems to be an issue right now. Like, it's not just the Mi'kmaq of Nova Scotia that have a treaty. We're part of the Mi'kmaq Nation and the Wabanaki.
Yeah. Well, we're also doing we're in the midst of a land claim, and I know Mi'kmaq are also, yeah. So I mean, and again, Kathy spoke of this in our last session, that, you know, it's not that Indigenous people want to take land away from non-Indigenous people. That's not what this is all about. And I think, you know, we want to be able to share resources, share land, and to live in peace and friendship, which is what our original agreement was amongst our people.
Close that door. I don't know why they don't tell people that when they're outside of that door, like the coffee table, it just gets really
loud.
I know. I thought it was a spirit actually opening that door all the time. Go ahead, sorry.
No, so I mean, just the in honoring of the peace and friendship treaties, and saying that, you know, our people have always wanted to live in peace. But, you know, I think that this whole issue of land is the biggest issue that we've faced, as like, it's really does come down to the land. Indigenous people were marginalized. They were pushed onto reserves because our land was wanted. And the lands that we occupied to hunt and fish, again, we occupied. We didn't own. Land ownership is a foreign concept to our people, and always has been. And so when we say, you know, we want to be able to have access to our lands, and to be able to you know, benefit from the resources there as well, in a way that's environmentally friendly. So this is one of the things that really we're coming to terms with I'm from Wolastoqey territory, so that would be in New Brunswick territory. So
Maliseet is how they are known by most people.
if you look in the textbooks and all that, yeah.
Maliseet, by Maliseet or Malecite.
But we call ourselves the
Because
Wolastoqey.
it's really their name, and the
No.
Mi'kmaq really aren't ours.
No.
So that's all right. We'll go there.
And you know, this is part of colonization process, is they rename us, but they also rename the land as a way to conquer the land, and to, you know, show domination and control over it. So part of our process is reclaiming and trying to give back the names of the original, the places that you know, that they were already given their names. And this is something that I feel, you know, we're in that process of doing that. And in the spirit of that, we want to be working together with, you know, not only our own people, but with your people. And so that we can all, you know, show respect to the land, and something that, you know, we really have strayed from so much. And I feel like, you know, we have to reconnect. We're all so disconnected from the environment. And I feel like, once we start connecting, we really realize how everything we do to the earth, we're doing to ourselves. And I think that was a lesson that was taught to us long ago, is that we're not separate from, we can't live without the earth. We can't live without water, air, fire. And it can exist without us, but we can't exist without it. So I think that's really a lesson that we all have to get into our minds, and our hearts as well.
So there's this one treaty everyone hears about. It's called the 1752 treaty. Treaties were being signed prior to that and amended ones to the 1752 after. I think it was up till 1763. So the British, even after they signed the Peace and Friendship Treaty, and as Lisa said, we were never conquered. We never surrendered ourselves or our land, because the Mi'kmaq, the Wabanaki, I hope I'm saying this right, are fundamental. This is what Helen Martin, a woman who started the Native women in the Native women organizations, hitchhiked the whole Maritimes, started with Elma, to start this Native Women Association way back when. But when the Meech Lake Accord was going on and our people were being invited up to do some stuff, I forget, the chiefs were in Ottawa. And I said, Helen, she was in the hospital. I said, Helen, is there anything you want me to tell them when I get up there about the Constitution and the Meech Lake Accord? And she said, yeah. She said, the basis for governance is sharing. And that's the Mi'kmaq. We understand that the beginning of governance is sharing and treating everybody like our family. And families don't always get along, but you can never not be connected as family. And so you let people leave and come back and whatever. And she said, that's governance. That's how our chiefs, women and men chiefs, or whatever, we weren't called chiefs back then, governed, as though you're our family. And it's a really different concept than what came to this land with language we didn't understand. And we learned their language, but they didn't learn ours. And ours is about how to live on this land. So they came without understanding their protocols here, understanding the true connection to land. And how could the Europeans that came here, because they were persecuted and they had no land, how could they come here with that understanding? They didn't. They came here as a tortured, oppressed people, and they did the same thing here, what was done to them. Anyway, so 1605, 1610, the French arrived. I assure you, others arrived prior to the arrival of the French. We know the Vikings did. For some reason, they made a pretty big statement, and so they were remembered. But we know of other stories of others that came here. But it was the British that came and decided in this colonized, and the missionaries in their ways were coming to civilize us. And we lived, I'm sure of it, it was not easy to live off a land. But we did, because it was easy. And that's all we had.
So we knew
the land, the sun, the moon. That was our governance. How we were governed is by the universe in circles and cycles. This whole new group that came did not understand us, did not try to understand. It's like Doreen Jensen said to me once, and she was a beautiful woman artist from BC. She said, when you come to someone's land, you should do as the Japanese do. When you go to their homes, you remove your shoes and you walk on their sacred land, walking with sacredness. And that's a very different thing than when the British arrived with their ships and their guns. So prior to the arrival, we had others. And, you know, the Vikings weren't so friendly, but they didn't stay. Maybe they left a few kids here. I said to everyone this morning or yesterday, you know, we're the longest contact in this country. We're the first contact. So here you have us, you know. And I always say, do the math. Like a lot of people will say, why, how is it that you're hanging around with the Mi'kmaq? I say, well, I say our people were raped. The British and the French didn't come here with women for a long time. So come on, that's called do the math. Our people were suffered when the arrival of the Europeans came. And so there was battles, there was all kinds, like, imagine us people just like those beautiful people in Peru. I'm sorry, I can't even talk about it. We have some pure Indigenous people who don't want to join the human race as they see it. And it's a problem right now. What do they do with them? Why do they have to get rid of them? Why are they having to move? What are they sitting on that they're trying to take these people who have never had contact with the outside world? Like that's insane. It's sinful to allow a group of people with which they're everything intact. They can teach us, yet we want to go in and take them out of where they have been able to survive. So there was trouble here. We were strategically inclined. We are still great strategic warfarers. Strategy is how and it's too bad they didn't learn that from us, because they could have used it today in all the mess that has been made in this world. Strategic warfare doesn't always kill you. We just overcome you. So we, knowing the rivers, the lands, the islands, we were able to outsmart the British armies on sea. There's 100-year battle on the sea between I would say it's the Wabanaki and the British. And so you all read about that in your history books, right? The 100-year battles on the seas, and that we won and they couldn't beat us because we knew we could strategically fool you into thinking there was 100 canoes when there might have been 20. But the way we knew how to go in and out of islands, it just freaked them out, and they said, oh my God, there's hundreds, but there weren't. And we had other strategies, but if I share them, then, you know, Trump,
We might need him in the
Trump
future.
might take them. We don't want to share any more of that. Anyway, so there was lots of problems, and lots of our people were being killed, and our land was being taken, and the British couldn't kill us. They tried. They did everything. So they said, we have to have this treaty. That was an agreement. Like we have wampum belts. Those are our agreements. They're made of quahog shells and beads. And if you look it up, you'll see. And those were sacred agreements written in shells. And that was our currency. The wampum was very, sought after. And so we had agreements for 14,000 years with all kinds of tribes, other groups. But the British came, they convinced us to sign a treaty because we said, you got to stop killing our women and children. You know, warriors, yeah, we're okay with that. We never thought we had to do that, but yeah, it's okay. But stop killing our children. because the children are the most sacred in our world. The Europeans wrote in their books about us. When they arrived, they saw that the Mi'kmaq up in Cape Breton, Nicholas Denny's area that he took over, that they were appalled that they were in a group meetings with chiefs or elders, and a child would walk in, or children were hanging around, and that was a society that said women and men, children are to be seen and never heard. I think they still have that as one of their rules. I'm not saying you. I don't care what heritage you're from. I'm talking about the people that arrived with that mentality. So they came and they took our land, and they kept trying, and we didn't understand the concept of buying and taking land. You know, we shared it. We talked with our relatives. Okay, where are the moose not plentiful? Where are the deer? Where's the medicines? Where should we not do that here? And where should we go here? And we would meet and we'd discuss it, and everybody would know what to do. Because we communicated, we talked, we didn't bring a gun to your head. So the Peace and Friendship Treaty had to be made. The people, our people, were fighting to survive, fighting to provide, and fighting against this group of people who thought they had some sort of God-given right or creator-given right to take and own and rip and rape the land. So I suspect our ancestors, our elders were fed up, and they found out that the British have these things called agreements, treaties. So we signed, worked on it for a long time, and came up with a Peace and Friendship Treaty written in English. We only started a writing system in 1845 by Silas T. Rand. We didn't write. We had petroglyphs and hieroglyphics, and we had our oral language. So here we are negotiating a treaty, not knowing the language, and they not knowing ours. So here comes 1725, there was a treaty. There was a treaty in Watertown called the Watertown Treaty, which gave us the right to cross this border still to this day. We have no border, because the Watertown Treaty and the Jay Treaty ensured that we could cross. There's no border. There was no border when the Europeans arrived, but they made one. So our elders worked together on getting together a Peace and Friendship Treaty. Only peace and friendship, none of the other things. So we're not called Treaty 6, Treaty 5, Treaty anything, because we're not a number. We are the Peace and Friendship Treaty. And within, like, a couple amendments were made because I suspect it wasn't working out, the agreement. And then eventually the British broke that promise, broke the treaty, and continued their rampaging of our people and our lands, and used, they said we broke the treaty because there was some little battle somewhere in part of somewhere, and that, they said, broke the treaty. Well, we didn't have telephones or cell phones or a mail system, so how did everybody know that? Our people knew because we had a way of communicating. We sent our runners, we sent our wampum belts, we sent, people to warn people that people are coming. We had runners and we had canoes, and we did that. And we knew how to get around our land, get from here down to Toby, up to Newfoundland. So they broke the treaty, and immediately the Scalping Proclamation came into effect in Nova Scotia. Is it in New Brunswick, or is it just us? Yeah, it's just our government. The Scalping Proclamation offered money for every scalp that the soldiers, the Gorham soldiers, brought to Cornwallis's leadership. outside of Sackville, Nova Scotia here. There was Fort Sackville is where the center was, where a lot of the scalps were collected. And if you had a woman and a baby, a pregnant woman, you got more. And I understand that the soldiers would bring those scalps, they would get their money, and later on, they would go take those scalps from the pile and bring them back and basically double dip. I think that's where double dipping came from. And they would get paid again. Think about it. Just think about that. A whole people were under attack and they were going to kill our babies and our women viciously, scalp them. Yeah. We did not invent scalping. That wasn't our thing. I don't know where it came from. It might have been other tribes, but that was not our thing. The British brought that to us. They taught us about the importance of providing proof that they have a scalp. And where we are here right now, it happened. Chebuctuk was the land, it was like, we understood it to be so many forests that you couldn't see the trees from the forests, this land. And I don't have to say any more about that if you look around. And they got rid of us. They built the citadel. They had maroon slaves build the citadel to keep the Indians out. They only fired one cannon just for fun. It wasn't even against us. How ridiculous. Anyway, that's the history of one of the most visited national historic parks in this country. When I worked there for about 6 months and I got the heck out of there because, you have to interpret the history there, and no, wasn't good. So eventually the 1752 treaty was signed and stamped, and it said, yes, we all agree to peace and friendship to live on this land in peace. And they broke it. They continued to kill us. They had a proclamation which is still on the books today. And the reason is they were not a Canadian government. They were colonies. So they didn't do it. They didn't write it. The colonies did it, not the federal and provincial government. So if one of them removes that proclamation, they might be saying they're sorry. Oh my God. Or admitting this happened. And it happened. So Chebuctuk is not a happy, friendly, lovely place. It's a place where we were wiped out. And most of us from this area went over to Dartmouth side. And my grandparents, my great-grandparents and my grandma lived over there during the Halifax explosion. And we only had wigwams over there. And when the explosion hit, they were living in wigwams right on the shore. Like, you know how when you're in the beach, you're on the shore, you don't have to walk down, you just walk into the water. So our people lived along there, many, many villages. And the explosion caused a tsunami. So it first exploded and threw shrapnel, metal, fire all over the people. And then the Halifax Harbor opened up and split open. They could see the floor. And it went up to the Bedford Basin, past us. And then when it came back, it was a tsunami. So while they were burning, my great-grandparents and their kids were running and burning and trying to survive, the tsunami came back after they were burned and hit them. And so, people have a list of how many people died. Well, I can't. There's more than that. There's people who drowned. There's babies who drowned. There's whole families that left in the water. Today we were talking earlier about telling the truth, the reconciliation. Well, I'm chair of Nova Scotia Indigenous Tourism Enterprise Network. why am I promoting tourism? Because I want the truth told. When I go to New Zealand, all of the experiences that they brought me on were all Indigenous Maori stories of how they were killed, how they were destroyed. And here in Nova Scotia, I know this for sure. Oh, we don't want to dwell on that. Like, we don't want tourists coming here and learning that. Well, you need to know what 14,000 years of history is. When I go to Mexico, when I go to Guatemala, I know it. It's already there. Here, it's like, oh, don't, let's not talk about that. Well, this is truth and reconciliation time. And I find those stories, those horror stories, very interesting. And it helps me to understand the whole world better when you tell me the truth. I'm not going to walk on land that is still happening, although I'm walking on this land. So Cheryl Maloney was the Native Women of Nova Scotia president. She was also up, I think, on the executive and national Native Women. She's a lawyer. She's Reg Maloney's daughter. Sorry, I have to give everybody credit. Chief Reg Maloney was very much part of the Union Nova Scotia Indians that led a lot of the work that we're still working on today. And Cheryl, just a chip off the old block. And so she's up at Hunter's Mountain. They're calling it Hunter's Mountain. It's Glooskap's cave. It's called the center of the universe, the cave where Glooskap lived and left. And that mountain is where, not the only place, but one of the greatest places to go and pay homage by hunting and fishing. That's how we keep our land. But for 250 years, after the British broke the promise of allowing us to live our life, our way, they started to, in British, I forget what they did. It's too
reserves.
No, before the reserves, they, the Peace and Friendship Treaty. Anyway, I'll get back to that. Did anyone know what I was just saying, the last line? Oh, Hunter's Mountain, yeah. So it's been a central part of a lot of our fights, like when we got the moose license, not the license, the right to hunt moose when we feel like hunting moose, not when we feel like it, when we know is the right time. And it's not always like October 1st. It's never that way. It's a stupid thing for people to think that the moose are ready to be hunted on one day when you're not thinking about the climate. When Peter Wilmot would talk to the moose and the moose would talk to him. He was a chief, and they would tell him when it was okay. And this is not a good year or a good season or good time. And they understood it from from everything around them. We're destroying our planet by allowing the European calendar to rule this land. It's totally different land. Plus, we cause climate change. We're causing all of this. Yet we still go ahead and say, okay, but you still can have pipelines and you can still throw all your SHIT into the ocean, whatever it is, no problem. So the 1752 treaty was supposed to ensure peace and friendship forever and allow us to hunt, fish, gather. So then the law, that's it. The law came in after the treaty was broken by them, but they said we did it, to not allow us to hunt, fish, gather anything that the treaty said, or to continue our way of life for 250 years, up until 1960, when they gave us the right to vote in our own lands. Like, why didn't anybody sort of outcry that and say, excuse me, but that doesn't make any sense? So in 1960, the Union was formed. And they started writing papers against or in support of bringing back our treaty rights or just our rights to live. We didn't call it treaty, we just lived. And we lived called, according to Nedagulimk. I don't know what it is in your language when you only take what you need to survive and provide for your family. It's not something to translate. It's a concept. It's what we are. It's in our blood. Even if we might not have been raised in that world, it's in our DNA. We know. Lisa has a school she's trying to start, or she started a language school. They started on their own in New Brunswick. And it's because you need to connect your language to the land. The land has to hear the original language to know. And the language is for all the relatives, the moose, the deer, the fish, the ants, the trees. They are all our relatives and they're all the same. I feel like I'm making her stand here. You want to say anything?
No,
Okay.
you're doing great.
All right. Well, you're swaying like I sway.
No, it's my back. I just need to move.
But you can sit too.
Yeah, I want to stand.
So, no, she's good. Yeah, no,
I'm
we're
just
swaying
moving.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, just keeping them back moving,
Yeah.
It's a trauma response, but it's working.
So we're here to help Cheryl because to me, that's where I should be right now. And I promised I'd stay
Yeah.
to help out because others had to leave and couldn't fulfill their positions over the last couple of days. So that's why you keep seeing me show up at all these things and I'm not on your program.
How lucky are they?
Yeah. I'm a filmmaker, so that's why I know a little bit about everything, but not a lot about everything. But I do know the treaty because my dad and my both sides are Mi'kmaq, and both were trappers and hunters and fishing. And so I was raised that way. I didn't go out and shoot. I couldn't I'm afraid of guns today, and I'll always be afraid of guns. Maybe if I had a bow and arrow, it might have been a little different, but no. So, but I was raised in that world. Like right now, my mom would say, oh, and there's a reason I'm telling you all this. My mom would say, oh, just don't pay attention to your father. It's hunting season. They just turn into something different. And it's true. It's in their DNA. They have to hunt. They have to fish. We have to grow our medicines or we're not filled. We're not full if we can't respond to what we are. So hunting, so the 1752 treaty was ignored and we died and the residential school came and they took more of our land and they squished us into smaller pieces as the Europeans saw the value of the land. We knew the value of this land for 14,000 years, for Christ's sakes. But we didn't destroy it. We lived with it in agreement. We have an agreement with the earth. And I know Ron Tremblay from the Wolastoq always talked about that, a contract, an agreement with the land. It's a very different thing. So it was ignored and all this stuff happened and my dad left the reserve when he was 16. He was a hunter and a trapper, and he guided Americans who came up to hunt. And one of them really liked him, and they knew him since he was a kid. And they said, the guy said, if he ever wants to come to the United States to learn a trade or get education, I would sponsor him. And so at 16, my dad's family was the poorest of the poor in Millbrook. And they are also one of the last families, or still are the last families that are hunting and fishing from our reserve. A lot of our people on our reserve are not Mi'kmaq, they're not native. Because the government gave right in the Indian Act, allowed women to lose their status if they married outside of our tribe. But if the men married outside and married a non-native woman, the woman got status and rights and we lost it.
Injustice.
It's an injustice. It shouldn't have been an Indian Act government sanctioned rule. Anyway, I mean, we could talk about that till the cows come home. Like, how come nobody raised their hands and said, excuse me, but we don't think that's correct? How come a whole world here never questioned the Indian Act and the scalping proclamation and the reservations? Well, so 1752 treaty, 1763, they just all went out with the bathwater. Except when the Union and Nova Scotia Indians came together, they were so smart. They still are. They were smart and they said, we got to bring back that treaty because our ancestors promised us that they would always consider 7 generations before and 7 generations ahead before they ever made decisions on anything, like the color of our moccasins. You know, how are they going to be in 7 generations? Are they going to be? Who knew? Who knew? So, the chiefs put together of Nova Scotia the white paper or the red paper. The red paper was Chrétien's. The red or the white?
The white paper.
The white paper was Chrétien's. He was an Indian Affairs agent or head of Indian Affairs at the time. Yeah, he was under Trudeau, and Chrétien was his Indian Affairs minister. And he created the white paper, which was to further destroy us. And the Mi'kmaq said, no, we're gonna take this, we're gonna give you the red paper. So they submitted it. I don't know if it's red or white, but
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
Right.
So it got denied, and it was based on the treaty and what was promised and what we lost, but also on other things. And it was a really great document, and Chrétien and Trudeau, 10 minutes? Oh God, we haven't even talked about the treaty.
Yes.
Okay, so the chiefs said, okay, fine. They kept that document and they revised it and revised it. Meanwhile, some of us were working hard to develop lawyers through the education system, because that's what we were told we need. Instead of guns, we need tools. We need education.
Yeah.
So we have lots of lawyers now. But while that was going on, the treaty was used to say, look, you guys made a promise and you broke it. You broke a treaty. Like, that means something in your society. You broke the agreement with her, with the earth. And so that is how James Simon of look, it says we have 60 minutes here. James Simon from Shuby went hunting with his gun and in his truck, and he got busted for it or arrested for it. And they fought it. And the James Simon case, we won the right to hunt. And then the government said, oh, no. James Simon won the right to hunt with his gun just in his little spot. Oh, no. It can't be interpreted things like that. So our people, our chiefs, went back to the drawing board. And they fought with James Simon, and he won. He won the right to hunt. So that was the beginning of what the ancestors gave us to work with. Our weapons was the treaty. Then then Junior Marshall, I won't tell you all about him. If you don't know about him, you should look it up. He was in prison for 11 years for a murder he didn't commit, yet another racist act. And he got out of jail, and he was the son of our Grand Chief. And all he wanted to do all those years was to go back to his way of life. Fish. That's all he liked to do. He fished. And he liked to fish eels. Of course. Everything's coming back. So he went and fished, and the chief of member 2, his chief, Terry Paul, they knew he was going fishing, and he called up and he said, look, the Department of Fisheries and Lands and Forests are on me, and what should I do? Keep fishing, Junior. So he calls them again. I'm getting arrested. They're taking my stuff. Keep fishing, Junior, because we're gonna defend you. And so he gave up his freedom to do this for us, and he won. With some of our lawyers that we had worked so hard to train, they were on that. I was there. I remember every minute of every part of that. So the treaty fought when our ancestors were already gone. They gave us this. And that's why the Supreme Court of Canada, ruled in favor then of the whole treaty was valid. And we never gave up our land, and we never, ever would give up our land because we didn't own land. Nobody owns Mother Earth. If you own your mother, wow, that's pretty hard to accept, because you can't own your mother. Your mother owns you. No, no. We have a connection to that. Anyway, so it was a 1752 treaty, and if you Google 1752 treaty, you're going to learn everything about all of us, the Wabanaki, all that, and we're still fighting. And the chiefs of Nova Scotia created a federal, provincial, and Mi'kmaq tripartite tripartite committee to work on how it is that we own the land and you're all here. How is it we're moving forward together? So for 25 years, our lawyers and your lawyers have been working this out. Meanwhile, I don't know about Lisa, but a lot of our youth are saying, what the F? Like, we have a treaty, we own the land, we have no money, we have no jobs, we have no houses, we have inferior water, we have, what world is that from? And I will leave you with that question. Why is it taking 25, if you were told, you own all of Nova Scotia, here's the treaty, here's the Supreme Court of Canada, the rule. Are you going to say, oh yeah, I'll just wait 25 years and more for our lawyers to work on the framework agreement? Our young people and a lot of us are saying, no, we want it now. Why can't I hunt on Hunter's Mountain when I think it's the right time? Why can't I fish? Besides the polluted waters and half the fish are gone, but why can't I? So the 1752 treaty, you're all brains, you all probably have computers, look it up. The story goes on and on because it's not ended, and we haven't been rewarded for 500 more years of occupation that was against the law. And meanwhile, I don't know why Canada didn't scream out and say, wait a minute, never in the history of a Supreme Court decision was it second guessed, because then you've just eroded your Supreme Court. Yep, 1 minute. Supreme Court rights. You're saying the highest court in the land. However, we don't like the fact that the Mi'kmaq won. So we want martial decision too. Yeah, you can hunt, fish, and gather, but you have to do it according to the Department of Fisheries and the Canadian government rules. So who wasn't listening when we were preparing all these documents and when we signed that treaty? And I'm getting really emotional because why are we up there fighting on our sacred lands, on our mountain where Glooskap lived? Why are we doing that today when she's looking for just money to support teaching 10 children at a time how to speak their language again? And the same here in Mi'kmaq. Why are we wasting all of our people up there? There's leaders up there, senators, there's You met the Provincial Minister of Aboriginal Affairs yesterday, Ms. Martin, not me, another Martin, not my relative. She was here and she's up there right now. She wanted to take me with her. I said, oh, I can't because I have to do this and she's leaving at 10. And anyway, could you do a closing with us in any way you feel?
Yeah, love to do that, Kathy. Chiwaliwin. Julie Dahazi. Gulusa Wagano, Gulusa Wagano, Julie Dogognid, the history. I can't say that in my languages. What's the history? The history the lessons that you have given us today. You know, I know our territory, but your territory's lessons are unique to this territory. And our relationship is with this territory, with the territory that we've grown up in, that's been our home. We can't, when people say, you hear this say, oh, why don't you go back to where you came from? Well, this is where we came from. We have nowhere to go. So we will always be here to protect the land. As long as we have a child among us, we will protect the land. We will protect the resources, the water, the air, everything. It's not about getting more material things for ourselves. It's about our relationship with the land, with each other. That's the most important thing to our people. Yes, you have some people that have, gone astray and have lost their value system, but the majority of us really want and crave that relationship with our mother, the earth. And I feel like, the stewardship that comes with that responsibility is like the ultimate purpose for us human beings to be here. And we need to learn that all around the globe. And I think our earth is speaking to us, right? Our mother is speaking to us right now and saying, it's time. But most we know, you have to wake up. You have to realize what your responsibility is. And I think, to me, like the words, everything you've shared here, Kathy, is really powerful because it's helping to provide a context of colonization and that whole process, but it's also speaks to a relationship that's been broken with each other and with the earth. And I think that, we need to, if we're ever going to heal as a people, we have to repair those relationships. We have to undo the harm that's been done. And I think, to me, that's, truth comes before reconciliation. And a lot of people don't, they just want to jump to reconciliation. But the truth has to be spoken. It has to be heard. And that's the thing, that's the natural order of things. That when, there has been an injustice, we think people might think they're going to get away with that, but they're not. There's a natural law, there's a natural order of things that will happen, that things have to be, there has to be retribution. And I think that, we're in that place right now, all of us. When those little kids were speaking from the ground, they were the ones that were telling us it's time. It's time now. No more silence around this. The truth must be spoken. And I thank you, my sister, for sharing your truth with us today. And I think that's beautiful. What's the common song that we can sing together? Is it Strong Women's Song? Do you know that?
Yeah.
Now let's do that one.
Let's start. You.
It's the double B, right? Way hey ya, way hey ya, hey oh, way hey ya. way higher. Way hey ya ho way hey ya way hey ya way higher. Way hey ya way hey ya way higher. Way hey ya ho way hey ya way hey ya way higher.
Now one of you has to sing it.
Lots of songs.
Anyway, yeah.
Sing with us then. Let's do another round. Way hey ya, way hey ya, hey yo. Way hey ya, way hey ya, hey yo. Way hey ya, way higher. Way hey ya, way hey ya, way hey ya, way higher. Way hey ya, way hey ya, way higher. Way hey ya, way hey ya, way hey ya, way higher.
Well, Alioke, everybody, and if we offended anyone, we're supposed to say this. My grandfather, if I told enough lies for today, but if I offended anyone, I apologize in a way, sort of. However, I do want you to know, you're looking for how are we going to help the earth, help our children. And this is how you do it. You accept us. You look to us. It's time as the children, the 2,000 something children came out of the graves to tell us. It's time, and it's for all of us. We never only wanted our people to survive. We want everybody to survive. And I swear to God, if you come aboard, you will help your children, and you will honor. Not all your ancestors did that. You'll honor all those that just came to be free and have land. So, well, Alioke, everyone, Emsit Nogama. Oh, I have to go on the road.